Paris wakes in golden stone, morning light slides across the Seine, cafe chairs scrape against pavement, newspapers rustle in gloved hands, taxis rattle past elegant hotels, and above it all, rising through a pale sky, stands the Eiffel Tower. Iron, impossible, unmistakable. Today it feels eternal. But in 1925, that certainty is weaker than you think. The tower is only 36 years old. It was built for the 1889 Exposition Universelle, and many Parisians had hated it from the beginning. Writers and artists once called it ugly, monstrous, industrial. It had been meant, at least in theory, as a temporary structure. Its maintenance is expensive. Its future is not sacred yet. That tiny crack in public confidence is all one man needs. His name is Victor Lustig. He is not a brute. He does not smash doors, wave guns, or sprint through alleyways. He smiles, he watches, he listens. He wears the right suit, speaks with the right calm, and studies human weakness the way an engineer studies metal stress. And in one of the boldest frauds of the 20th century, he convinces respectable businessmen that the French government is about to sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap. Not once, twice. To understand how a lie this outrageous becomes possible, you have to step inside a world that worships appearances and inside the mind of a man who knows exactly how to weaponize them. Victor Lustig is born in 1890 in what is now the Czech Republic, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Accounts of his early life blur at the edges, and that is fitting. Men like Lustig survive by editing themselves. By the time he becomes famous in criminal circles, he speaks multiple languages, dresses elegantly, and moves through Europe with the ease of someone who understands class as performance. You meet him not as a street thief, but as a gentleman in motion. He travels on ocean liners. He studies wealthy passengers. He flatters, disarms, and improvises. He learns a principle that will define his life. Most people do not want truth. They want reassurance, exclusivity, and advantage. By the early 1920s, Europe is a continent recovering from the First World War. Governments feel unstable, bureaucracies feel distant, money moves nervously. Society wants to believe in order again, but under that polished surface, everything feels negotiable. That atmosphere matters. Great cons do not happen in solid worlds. They happen in moments of uncertainty dressed as normality. Then Lustig finds the spark. In May 1925, he reads newspaper articles about the Eiffel Tower's deteriorating condition and the growing cost of repairs. The state is struggling with maintenance. Public debate simmers, and suddenly he sees it. Not just a story, but an opening. If the tower is expensive, if it is politically inconvenient, if it was once considered temporary, then maybe, just maybe, the idea of quietly dismantling it could sound plausible to the right audience. That is the genius of the scheme. The lie is absurd from far away, but up close, inside the right room, with the right documents, spoken in the right tone, it becomes almost reasonable. So Lustig prepares the stage. He forges government stationery, he creates a false identity, a senior official from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. He rents luxury space in Paris, reportedly at the Hôtel de Crillon, a setting designed to do half the work for him. Marble, polished brass, liveried staff, privacy. Every detail tells his victims that power lives here. And then he invites a small circle of scrap metal dealers to a confidential meeting. Not too many, not too few. Just enough to create competition. You arrive at the hotel in a dark suit, your shoes clicking softly across polished floors. A letter from the French government brought you here. The matter is confidential, urgent, sensitive. That alone is intoxicating. In the room stands Victor Lustig, composed and official. Beside him is an accomplice, Dapper Dan Collins, helping complete the illusion. Lustig explains the situation with the calm gravity of a bureaucrat, burdened by an unpleasant necessity. The Eiffel Tower, he says, has become too expensive to maintain. Public disclosure would trigger controversy. Therefore, the government has decided discreetly to sell it for scrap. Listen to the brilliance here. He does not oversell, he does not perform like a villain. He behaves like a tired civil servant managing a politically awkward file. That is what makes it work. He takes the dealers to inspect the tower. You ride through Paris and look up at the Iron Giant from below, perhaps already calculating tonnage, transport, cutting costs, resale value. The structure weighs about 7,300 tons of puddled iron. Even stripped of symbolism, it is a fortune in metal. Lustig wants the men thinking as traitors, not patriots. Among the invited businessmen, one stands out, André Poisson. Poisson is not the most established of the group. He wants to rise. He wants legitimacy. He wants to prove he belongs among larger players. Lustig notices that instantly. Great con men do not choose victims at random. They choose people whose ambitions make them steer themselves. Then Lustig adds the second hook. In private, he suggests that, like many officials, he is underpaid. The deal, he implies, could move more smoothly with a personal payment, a bribe. This is the masterstroke. Why? Because a bribe makes the whole scheme feel more real. Corruption is believable. Petty greed inside government is believable. And most importantly, once Poisson considers paying a bribe, he becomes compromised. He is no longer just a buyer. He is a participant in something dirty. That means silence becomes more likely. You can almost feel the trap closing. The room smells faintly of tobacco and paper. Paris traffic murmurs beyond the windows. Lustig speaks softly, almost apologetically, and Poisson, eager and anxious, steps forward. He agrees. Money changes hands. The false sale is complete. Victor Lustig has sold the Eiffel Tower. What happens next is as revealing as the con itself. Poisson eventually realizes he has been deceived, but shame is one of the strongest silencers on earth. He has not merely lost money, he has been made ridiculous. He has attempted to bribe a fake official for the purchase of one of the most famous monuments in the world. Reporting the crime would expose not just his financial loss, but his vanity, greed, and gullibility. So at first he says nothing. That silence is worth more to Lustig than the money itself. It confirms that he judged his victim correctly. The con is not finished when the cash is taken. It is finished when the victim chooses secrecy over justice. And because Poisson stays quiet, Lustig does something almost unbelievable. He tries again. This is the detail that pushes the story from clever to surreal. One successful fraud might be luck. A second attempt reveals temperament. Lustig is not merely opportunistic. He is addicted to mastery. He wants to prove the world can be bent twice in the same place. He again reaches out to scrap dealers. Again, he wears the official mask. Again, he uses the language of discretion and bureaucracy. But second attempts are always riskier. The pool is less forgiving. This time, one target grows suspicious and contacts the authorities. The moment the temperature changes, Lustig does what experienced con men do best. He vanishes. He flees Paris before the trap closes. And just like that, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice slips out of France alive, richer and more legendary than before. It is tempting to tell this story as if it were only about a monument. But the Eiffel Tower is not the true object being sold. What Lustig really sells is access. He sells status to men who want to feel chosen. He sells secrecy to men who want advantage. He sells realism through corruption, exclusivity through invitation, and urgency through politics. The tower is merely the stage, prop large enough to make the lie unforgettable. That is why the scam still works on the imagination a century later. It exposes something humiliating but deeply human. Intelligence alone does not protect people from deception. In fact, intelligent people often build better justifications once they want something badly enough. And Lustig understands that, at a terrifying level. Later, he continues his criminal career, including swindles in the United States, where he becomes infamous for other schemes and eventually for counterfeiting. He is arrested in 1935 and later imprisoned at Alcatraz. He dies in 1947. His life does not end in glamour. Most lives built entirely on manipulation do not. But by then, the legend is secure because some crimes steal money. This one steals certainty. After all, if a well dressed stranger can sell the Eiffel Tower to serious businessmen, what else can confidence make people believe? The story of Victor Lustig endures because it is not really about the past. It is about how civilized surfaces hide primitive impulses, greed, ego, hope, fear of missing out, fear of looking foolish. The Eiffel Tower still stands over Paris, solid and indifferent, while the men who tried to own it have become ghosts in a cautionary tale. That may be the strangest irony of all. Lustig sold the tower, but he never touched its true value. Steel and rivets were never the point. The point was perception, and perception, in the wrong hands, becomes one of the most dangerous tools in history. So when you look at the Eiffel Tower now, do not just see a monument, see a stage, see a city ready to believe, see a room full of respectable men convincing themselves that the impossible has suddenly become practical. And in the center of that room, see one calm, elegant fraud who understood the oldest rule of all. People rarely get conned by what frightens them. They get conned by what flatters them. If this story surprised you, I'd love to know which part feels most unbelievable. The fake government meeting, the bribe, or the fact that he had the nerve to try it twice. And if you stayed to the end, you now know why this isn't just one of history's funniest scams. It's one of its sharpest lessons.